Marina, вам слово.
Hi. I will be speaking in English because I cannot speak security in Russian. So this talk is a continuation of the talk from which I delivered at Black Hat when I was going through the stages of the hack, how we design final payload if you want to exploit a physical process. And so this time it's just another physical application. And to start with, we all like watching movies. So movies are inspiring. We want to be like the heroes of the movies. So the inspiration for today is traffic lights.
Welcome to LA's Automated Traffic Surveillance and Control Operations Center. See, they use video feeds from intersections and specifically designed algorithms to predict traffic conditions and thereby control traffic lights. So all I did was come up with my own kick-ass algorithm to sneak in, and now we own the place.
You want to do a dry run?
I thought you'd never ask. See red light, green light.
Danielson.
Yeah.
What's up with grid 34?
Let's check it out.
Hey.
Oh, oops, oops. Wow, but it's awesome. Is that not awesome?
Can you change it back now?
Yeah.
4 or 5 northbound, group it out.
Lights are working fine. Just an accident.
It's good.
So, today we will talk about what if you want to be exactly like the hero of the movies, and the movies tell us that if you're determined enough, then everything is possible. But is it really so? So let's see. Last night at 23 o'clock, I've got news that my collaborator was not allowed to be associated with this talk. And we actually have to change a lot of the content. So because we discovered several things which we were not allowed to talk. So we had a little bit to modify the talk, but that will not relate it to the demo. A little bit about me. I have a PhD in industrial control system security. I have 2 engineering degrees. That's why I really love physical objects. And 2 years ago, when I discovered for myself hacking community, I did not know that I am a hacker, but then my hacker friends told me that I actually was. So that's a new title for me. So a little bit of prehistory. As I told that at the Black Hat, I gave a talk on how to exploit physical processes on the example of the chemical plant. And at DEF CON, that was the next conference, there was an ICS village, and there was a lot of demos on the control system. There was robotic arms, there were traffic lights, there were power grids, and a lot of guys were there, and they were interested to learn how do I exploit a control system. But the point is that they've been applying techniques or approaches and, let's say, a series of steps they typically take when they try to exploit an IT system. So they've been in mapping, analyzing the traffic, firing Nessus, hoping to find some vulnerability and to get shell. And when not successful, they actually pretty quickly they lost interest. So actually my collaborator, he was probably one of the very few guys who actually persisted and tried to really understand, okay, so it's not IT system, I need to approach it differently. So my thought process, was, well, can I reapply the same steps which I used to hack chemical plant? Is this a good framework, like an algorithm? If you will follow the steps, you will be able to exploit a control system and actually design a payload which will allow you to control the physical application. So actually, it's not a series of steps. You sometimes can jump between the steps. So the purpose of this talk is to see whether it's really this the stages of cyber-physical exploitation is helpful. So what we did, so the owner of this traffic light kit, it's Matthew Llewellyn, and he actually allowed us full disclosure, and we built the hardware ourselves, and we obtained the image legally somewhere from the internet. It was there. So of course we had a proper project kickoff meeting, and then we started. So first of all, you have to get access to your system. So somewhere out there on the planet Earth, there is a traffic light, and you need to connect to it. Well, in our case, the system was just in front of us, so all we needed to do is just to plug in a couple of Ethernet cables into the switch. So this stage was pretty much easy for us. But, well, be connected to the system. The next, we need to understand how the system works. So the next stage is discovery. It's a static discovery how the system is built and wired and functions. So first of all, it's an American traffic light system, and the word American is important because it already will give you an idea what would be the sequences of the signals, like red, yellow, green, and maybe the timeouts. The next, what we were figuring out, okay, so how this place is configured. So we have host, which has run the control system. We have a Raspberry Pi, which actually serves for us as a controller. So we upload the control algorithms into the Pi. And we have a traffic light, which is hardwired to controller. So there is no really digital communication between the controller and the traffic light. And we have a bad guy. So the next what we need to know is okay, which control system is used to design the control logic of the process. And in our case, it's a REX control system. So this is the picture from the internet. So if we will just go to the web page, we will already learn about major components of the REX. So we have a development platform for creating control logic. We have a diagnostic tool which will allow you to monitor the process in runtime of the process. We have HMI, and we have a compiler. And important to understand that because we have this combination of the IT system and the physical process, control systems are also called cyber-physical systems. And the goal of the attacker not just to hack into the system, but to achieve some effects in the physical world. So basically to bring system into some state or to make system performing certain actions. And it is useful to think about those systems in 3 layers. So logically, cyber-physical systems consist of 3 layers. You have a cyber layer, where all of your applications are running. You have a control layer. This is the control algorithms, which define the logic of the process behavior. And you have a physical application. And the attacker has to hack through all of these processes, layers. And the vulnerabilities has to exist at each of those layers. And if you just can hack into the cyber layer, but you are unable to exploit anything on the control layer, then you are not successful. Yes. So this is how the architecture of how the control systems speaks to our physical application. So we have, so in our case, everything runs on one host. We have Modbus, which over the driver talks to the controller. We have configuration. This is where we create our control program, which we compile and upload to the controller. We have diagnostic. So this is where we can monitor the process, the runtime of the process. And we have visualization, the HMI. So this is what I am telling you right now is just how we were discovering the process. So this is how you should be, everybody should be doing that. So next what we've been interested, okay, which protocols we run in. We have REX for uploading the logic. It's proprietary, but we tried to reverse engineer it. It's possible, but it was needed to us. And we have Modbus, which runs between the HMI and the physical application. It's open source protocol, so Wireshark understand it. No authentication, integrity protection, or encryption. So basically, replay is possible, injection, packet injection is possible, and so on. So basically, no security, good for us. So the next, we've been trying to look into the traffic. So, for example, here you see this is just one of the packets. Read the holding register. So, we've been 6 registers starting from this address. And this was the next packet. So yes, we read in the state. So this is what system was returning to us. So for example, there are 2 red signals. So we can in certain addresses we can also write something, but at this point we still don't understand how those addresses correspond to the physical application. We just see what we This is initial analysis of the traffic. So important to understand about control systems that everything what can be measured, basically the inputs, and set, the outputs, is called a point. And each point has a tag, basically what we call in software the variable name. And you have really to reconstruct the correspondence between points, because those are physicals, and tags. Points can be analog, digital, or integer, and they can be read, write, or read, write. So you have to figure out what are your rights according to the point. And this, while it sounds simple, okay, you have to reconstruct point and a tag, how they correspond to each other, but there could be multiple layers or multiple locations where this, the conversion will be happening. You will see on the next slide. And this is one of the hardest things for the attacker. So you will need to find those, it can be some Excel table, it can be some specification for protocol or application, how this conversion of different tags into another tags and labels is happening. So, yes, so next we've been looking, okay, we have an HMI, the HMI has no authentication or access control, good for us. If we will look around the HMI, HMI is very useful to the attacker. This is where you can learn a lot about the process. Because, for example, if I go back, you can see, okay, that's the system and we only have 2 traffic lights. We can see what the operator can do. So this is obviously something will be what we can set. So this is the commands which we can send from the HMI. And those, obviously, these points will be read-write. Then we will look inside into the HMI, what we will find into the HMI. And fantastic, it gives us a lot of information. So you can see, suddenly we get the list of all possible tags, so which corresponds to the points. So we now we know how many points we have in our process. If you will, we can actually, if you will select any of these tags, then we can actually monitor the point it corresponds to. And what we will see here, this is very interesting to us, that there is no alarms set on this point. And this is a concept which also not very much understood by the IT people. And the physical processes, we have alarms. Alarm is a kind of min-max threshold of warning on a point. So, for example, that the value of this point is exceeding certain value, or that the process in some condition which is dangerous. So then the operator will get a warning. And for the attacker, it's useful to know where the operator, where those limits because you probably want to exploit them because you want to go beyond those thresholds if you want to damage the system. Or it gives you about the vulnerabilities of the process because you will see what the design of the process was worried about. And important is that the alarms can be generated in the controller itself. It can be in some database which stores process values, or it could be on the HMI. For the attacker, it's important information because if you want to suppress alarms, you need to know where to suppress. Because if the alarm is generated in the HMI, so you can't suppress it. Well, you can suppress it also in the controller, and then it will never reach the HMI. As I mentioned, in our case, it seems like there is no alarm set, but we were not sure. So I actually opened the alarm log, and there is no any history on alarms. So it really tells us probably there is no alarms in the system. That's good for us. We don't need to take care about that. So eventually, after all of these discoveries, you need some kind of a table. So with all the points and tags which you have in your system, the addresses, because if you want to send some commands to the system, you need to know the addresses of the Modbus. And that gives you the descriptions. It's basically the commands which your system can understand. So all of this we got from the traffic. For example, if you go and check the talk of the Trend Micro at Black Hat on how the attackers were interacted with the pumps on the gas station. So what the attackers were trying to understand is which protocol the pumps is speaking and which commands pump understanding. So that's exactly here. So we now learned a lot already about the system. So the next stage is like we go into the controller and we want to see the control logic. Basically, how this is the most important. So how the physical application is controlled. This is relatively simple system, and we did not find vulnerabilities in the control logic itself, except one. But it's also important to understand what is the control logic. Control logic defines what should or should not happen to the process, under which conditions, at what time. And it's always yes or no proposition. Yes is something on, or no, it is off. And it is not Java. And it's typically, when you program in the logic, you have to think it's kind of if-then statements, and it's Boolean logic. So if input 1 is true and input 2 not true, do something. So set output, for example. So where do you get it? You can get it, for example, from the engineering station. Maybe it also exists on some laptops, for example, of the maintenance guys who've been uploading the logic. But of course, it's like if you have some, it will be typically also stored on some servers of the company. You can also grab it directly from the controller. Of course, it will be compiled, so it will be some binary, so you need to basically disassemble the compiler so that you could reconstruct the logic. We did not go this path because it's just a hacking exercise, but if you're interested to know how it can be done, see the talk of Felix Lindner from the CCC. He built the disassembler for Siemens PLCs. So we are back to the control logic, and the only vulnerability or weakness which could be exploited, which I found, was this is a button which set the traffic light into the automatic mode, and it is already initiated as active, so it already holds a 1. So basically, the operator has to press the button to kind of set it to 0 and then press again, so in order to activate it. So if between these two presses, if the attacker will keep pressing it, so basically you can prevent operator from setting traffic light into the automatic mode. Other than that, in the control logic, we didn't find any vulnerabilities. The most important part of the logic is the state machine. This is which will define the complete behavior of the physical application. So it has inputs, which are conditions. So if the conditions are true, then set the outputs. So the next what we will do, we will look inside. And this is what we will see. We will see state transition table. So the first line is state transition table. So the system can only be in those states and can transition only from this state to another and none other sequences. And T outs, it's a timeout for each state. So here it's a little bit more information. So if you look at those triplets, so the first numbers, it's a current state, in which state the physical process right now. The second is which is conditioned necessarily so that system could transition to the next state. And the third number is the next state. And this is just an example from the control logic. So if when timeout of a specific state, for example, Q2 is over, then certain condition, for example, condition C2 is valid. And then the system can transit to the next state. So if we will visualize this state machine, so this is how it will look like. So as you can see, the system goes always twice through red. So this is why you always typically, this red is always long. So yes. So basically those states of the physical process, they are wired to physical components, and then they produce the outputs. That's why we see red, yellow, and green. And so for example, here is the state is, if it's on, it will immediately go into the green. And Q3 is also there. And I will not take you through the logic, but if it's on, then red and yellow will never be active, except if you press this button, blink. So for the attacker, it's now important to reconstruct the correspondence between pins on the controller, between the tags, and between the also Modbus labels. So how it corresponds to the traffic. And we already analyzed the tags and Modbus. We already got it from the traffic. What we also need to now, what we are missing is correspondence between the tags and pins. So, for example, the Raspberry Pi gives us incorrect correspondence between the tags and pins. So we kind of have to use, for example, if I need GPIO 22, this is red of the main traffic light, I know that it will be on the 15 pin, and here I find the 15 pins, it's wrong GPO, but I need this address. So by the end of the discovery stage, you already know how your application is built, wired together, and what is available, which commands it understand, what is read and write. So basically, what are your capabilities? And it's static discovery on the system. We still did not try to do something to the system. That is next stage, the control. So now when we understand the system, we can try to do something. So now we move into the dynamic discovery of the process. So this is the stages about what we can change and what is the impact of our changes on the system. So with respect to the traffic light, it's relatively easy. So we can easily set the color of the yellow, red, or green, and we can change the timeout. So this is our two opportunities. And then now we can find all possible ways how we can change those things. Important to understand that, and I'm now at this point that you can influence the state of the physical application directly when you set something, like you set a command like you go in green, or indirectly when you fulfill some condition, and that condition will lead to the fact that the system will transition into some state. We don't have this one. So for example, if you would have sensors which detect the traffic, so you can then manipulate the sensors and tell the fake the status like, okay, there is no cars. And then, yeah, maybe the traffic light will remain in red. But we don't have, so basically, yeah, this one we don't have in our system, we will be using this one. So we brainstormed like 30 approaches how we can change the state of the traffic light or change the time. And we implemented approximately half of it. And at the end, once you have a workable scenario, at the end it's just like hacking exercise for fun. So now we will try to do something with demos. So we will try to play with our traffic light. And first demo is about forcing the point. So basically, we want to change the state like of specific light. And I'm going into my... So I'm in automatic mode. And so first, as I mentioned, we have a debugging tool. So debugging tool allows you to look into the runtime. And from the debugging tool, you can actually issue all engineering commands and override the logic. So I will open the debugging tool. So, and I already know which point I want to set. So, and all what I do, I just say, yeah, you go into red. I can see only badly. And oh, wait a moment. I think I don't see the set button. Oh. Yes, on. I'll just wait it. Okay, I'll choose another point then, 25. A second. Done. Yes, now I have it. So basically you can influence the state of any point from the debugging tool. And if the debugging if the attacker can get access to the debugging tool, it's very bad. So the next, what we can do the same. We can set the point directly from the controller. So basically, we can go one layer beyond and do it directly from the controller, from the firmware of the controller. So as you've seen, the demos did not work properly in the morning, so I don't know whether it will work, hopefully. So maybe it will work. Я уже... Okay. Yes, I have to disconnect and reconnect again. I'm not getting into my Pi. Oh, wrong address. Oh. I just... Yes, so I was able to force yet another point from the controller itself, from the Pi. I could put them all, and basically I can do whatever I want. I can switch them off. I will re-upload the logic. So the next, how we can change the state of the process is the next attack, which I will show you, is a stale data attack. This is one of the attack vectors which I discovered on the on general on the cyber physical systems. It's a very, very powerful attack which I presented at several conferences. So let me go. I need a PID. So I need to know this PID. I want to wait for some specific state of the traffic light. I'll put it. Okay. So what I did right now, I just disconnected the controller from the process. Yeah. And what is happening, the process is just remain in the last state it was. So if it would be pump, it would be just keep running. So denial of service on the physical process is not what is in IT. So if you DOS the mail server, the effect is just like you cannot get emails. But that's not the same in the physical processes. And you can basically enable it again, and basically you can just do this, disconnect and connect the controller at the time, and just kind of, with that you can completely control the behavior of the physical application. So the next what we had is, I'm actually much slower than I expected. So the idea was okay, how can we speed up the time? So for example, can we speed up the time in such a way that, for example, we could actually run over certain states? For example, I want to stay in red all the time and quickly jump over green and yellow in such a way that you don't even notice and you basically remain in red all the time. For that, we needed to speed up the inner clock. My collaborator, he actually reverse engineered the Rex core, and he found this tick, the timer tick, which we've been changing. So if I have only 10 minutes, I will skip this demo, but we were able so basically you just have to find the right addresses where you can override, change the timer tick, and we actually speed up the process pretty much. So it's not even visible to human eye, so we just remain in the red. So what we've done here, so we change also timeouts. So the time is fast and we change the timeout. So we stay in red for long enough time and we jump over all other states. So basically for human eyes, it's just like 2 red remains all the time. Then I will also, you can also modify the logic. For example, you don't want to have any reds and you always want to have greens. So just change the logic and upload the logic. So I already have the logic. Oops. Okay. My application is frozen. I will try again. Now I have to restart the entire VMware. Okay, I will just continue with slides. So if you will upload this logic, so what we will do, we will have both greens. So the outcome of the control stage is a portfolio of attacks which you can include into your final payload, and you just like have to decide which of those you will put into your final payload. So you can check like if some attacks are riskier, then you probably don't want to include them. Those are which are more reliable and effective. So now when you know what you can control, you can actually start thinking how you can wreck the place. So now you can really think of your attack scenario, which damage you want to cause. And if you think about the traffic lights, so what can be your goal? It can be safety related. You can maybe crash the vehicles or kill somebody or both. It can be economy related. You want, for example, denying of traffic light service, and you have a traffic. It can be maintenance effort. So, for example, if you fail the traffic light, it will go into the blinking yellow, and then the guys has really physically go to the traffic light and reset it. So if you do it like to the 30 traffic lights, the guys will be having hard times restarting everything. You can also use it as a force amplifier, for example, to make a way to the good guys, like in that movie, or deny a way for the bad guy, for the good guys, for ambulance or police. So this is just an example of the perfect gridlock, and that's in Paris. So basically, there is no way you can remove this. And so in order to cause such effects, it's not like you just press something, set traffic light in green, and you achieve the effect. It's not. Because the final payload is actually your attack scenario is tailored to the system you're attacking. And for that, you really need to understand the knowledge of the traffic light solution. Is it like how many lanes you have, who is turning where, and so on. You need to know this crossroad layout. You need to know traffic patterns when you have like rush hours. And you need to understand the driving culture. And this is my second point. For example, in India, nobody follows traffic lights anyway. So you can set whatever you want. You will not achieve anything. And for example, if you will try to, for example, desynchronize traffic lights in the USA, you will also achieve nothing because they are in most cities, they're desynchronized anyway. And desynchronized, it's not like they are not well synchronized, they are desynchronized. So if you will try to just do something like to traffic lights in the American city, that will not have accept. And there is a really funny video. This is the link, like Germans don't need traffic lights anyway. So if you will just like do something to a traffic light and it's not performing its function as expected, so that was it is a shoot of 20 minutes of the crossroad where cars and humans still able perfectly driving and crossing the roads without any traffic lights. So if you will you will cause denial of service in Germany, again, the guys will be still driving. And this is like, for example, there was a traffic light hack in Los Angeles in 2006. And the only reason why the guys were able to really achieve meaningful effect is that because they were traffic road engineers. And they knew exactly the intersections which will cause problems. So it's hacking the physical application in a meaningful way, which requires really knowledge, and it's not just oh, I'll press something, I'll set something in green, and maybe I'm successful. The last stage is cleanup. The problem with the cyber-physical attacks is that they change things in the physical world. And those effects you can't make invisible by simply some stealth techniques or by modifying the logs. So, and because it is invisible, and somebody will investigate. So if you want really to achieve certain effects, you want to hide the real state of the process from the operators. And so in our case, the traffic light is remotely monitored from the HMI, And actually, because my VMware is not responsive anymore, but what we did, we implemented man in the middle. So in the last demo, we're supposed to see both greens. And this is obviously unsafe state, and you don't want the operator to know about that. So we implemented man in the middle with a tool which is already available in this VMware. And we basically can set the view of the operator into any state we want. So this is just an overview. So if you will go through all of the stages, like at each stage you have to perform certain actions. So all of that eventually allow you to compile your final payload. So I'll maybe rush for a couple of slides. So obviously this is a little bit a smaller system, although it's really perfect for initial study how to hack like control systems. So when we started to study about the real traffic light system, we were overwhelmed with the fact that they are all different. They are so different. And then even if it is a traffic light system from a specific vendor, that it will be always built and configured according to the wish of the customer. And for example, even within the same country, in each village, in which town, it will be different, and how it will be operated as well. And in fact, it's like the modern traffic light systems, they're complex. They're now interactive. We can collect a lot of information about the events on the road and everything. We have these big data applications running which analyze the traffic information. We have adaptive algorithms to adjust the traffic lights patterns to the traffic patterns. We have this now a lot of sensors which collect, like which can detect the cars and, for example, influence the behavior of the traffic light, like the state of the traffic light. So this was the hack of Cesar Carudo of IO Active, when he showed that if you can hack into those sensors and send wrong data to the access point, then you can change the state of the traffic light. But what I found important is also you have to understand where this data collected by the sensors is used. Because, for example, you may probably lie, for example, like say send fake data to the access point, but the true data is also, for example, sent to the camera, and maybe you don't want to be photographed. So you need to understand really the configuration and the entire solution to make it right. So this is just again another example that there are so many inputs about the traffic conditions, which is analyzed, and actually this data is then used as inputs into the applications to control the traffic. And the most important difference is, of course, what we didn't have in this kit is that we did not have the safety layer. So, of course, most of the attacks which I've shown you today will not be possible on the real life, on the real traffic lights, because there is a safety unit which sits between the controller and the traffic lights, which is kind of, it's like whitelisting in application. It will never allow you to send both in greens. And so it will actually overwrite it with a safe state. So for safety, there is directives which will, for example, we have for the entire Europe, we have a European directives, and then there is local directives for countries. And yes, so this detection and going into the safe state has to happen pretty much quickly. So, like, if you've seen those, and maybe I'll show you here. So this is how, for example, this is a picture that how, for example, those states, safe states, they hardwired on the safety board. Although in the common solutions we typically now, so the modern traffic lights just have 2 CPUs running on the same motherboard. For example, this is the typical checks on the safety unit. And as you can see, there should not be conflicting colors. There should not be strange signal sequences. And there is also minimum and maximum cycle time for signals. So basically, I will not be able to speed up this specific state. So you have to remain in yellow, like. And if you've seen in the movie, so he just changed like red into green. that would never be possible because that's not allowed sequence. It will go. So basically, you would never get these conflicting signals as they had it in the movie. I had on the slide the previous works how we could hack into the traffic lights. We found certain traffic light systems already in Shodan. And what we of course also have, everybody loves 0 days exploits. So call for action. So there is a specific protocol which allows you to actually request all green. So if you will have a specific device in your car, you actually can request, please give me green. So it's not like everybody can buy the device, so you have to be a police or ambulance or something. But the point with this, it's a well-described protocol. It's available on the internet, so the specification is available on the internet. I guess this one. No, that's American standard. And there is no authentication, authorization, and encryption. So you basically can inject your crafted packets and request green for yourself. And the Oscar goes to, like everybody saw that to me, but no, it just was a beautiful picture. So those guys who can really design a meaningful attack scenarios or who can overcome the safety protections. So if you can really coordinate the traffic light that you will have a green wave, cool. Maybe if you want to kill somebody, you need kind of to find the way how it will work. You can do many bad things. What we found that there is still not solved safety issue, and so if the blind pedestrians have to press the button, and then there is a speaker which tells them, okay, now it's green, you can cross the road. The point is that you can like mimic that signal when it's red. And basically it's a known issue and they don't know how to solve it yet, so how to validate that input. Yeah, with respect to the safety, we found that there is a CAN bus which which connect this main CPU and safety CPU. So it would be possible to acquire the device or system, then it would be interesting to reverse engineer and to look into it if you could get it as a safety unit. With that, I am at the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Is there time for questions? Who is running this show? Maybe, yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Один вопрос. Вот та железка для служб, скорых служб.
Да.
То есть, получается, любой может купить?
Нет, купить нельзя. Ну, то есть ты... сейчас.
Можно украсть там и разобрать, посмотреть, и получается, это будет такой эксплойт,
Нет,
который...
там просто даже не надо железка. Железка вообще не нужна. Железка просто, по сути, драйвер протокола. То есть железка просто трансмитит этот сигнал, это радио. То есть ты, в принципе, можешь купить радио сам и просто генерировать правильные пакеты. Протокол открытый и спецификация доступна.
Ну вот это я имел в виду. Да, сигналы,
Да, поэтому
которые...
я же говорю, вот call for action, попробуйте свои эксплойты сделать. Но, то есть там все должно получиться.
То есть, получается, нам не нужен никакой ни ротовый доступ, ни физический, ни контроль, ничего, вот просто...
Да, просто радиосигналы. Но это просто только, например, это только один из атак векторов. То есть, в принципе, это просто, чтобы запросить зеленый. И это должно трансмититься, этот сигнал должен подаваться с определенных локейшенов. То есть,
рядом с светофором,
есть,
допустим.
да, специально, ну, то есть, вот это одна из тех информаций, которую нам нельзя было разглашать, потому что есть карты вот этих локейшенов.
А где такая система работает? Ну, то есть
Они все, это в каждой стране есть такая. То есть это просто разные стандарты в разных странах. Вот CAR это был голландский, Link на слайде был американская система. Но протокол открытый. То есть, например, то, что мы вот нашли, то есть, в принципе, safety, да, она очень, там все очень строго, а вот по security нету ни requirements, ни стандартов, ни regulations. Поэтому, ну, как бы, по сути, все открыто. Это просто, вот, например, в Голландии там ну, просто мы разговаривали с разными операторами вот этих traffic lights, светофоров, и некоторые совершенно не понимают security, они там вообще делают глупые вещи. Некоторые понимают, и они делают это по-другому. То есть, в принципе, это не регулировано и зависит от оператора светофоров.
А еще вот такой вопрос. Ну вот когда мы начали вот с графом переходов, диаграммой состояния играться, да? Ну, речь шла о том, что у нас все равно все десинхронизировано. Вот. И для меня было инсайтом, что вот диаграмму состояний, тайминги можно менять, что они не зашиты где-то внутри, допустим, вот этого контроллера,
тайминги
который
можно менять.
перекресток
Их можно
регулирует.
ремоутли менять.
Вот, это как-то...
То есть все зависит, то есть, например, на простых, вот если вы просто вот пройдешь, там пройтись по Москве, есть очень простые перекрестки. Там вот тайм-ауты нельзя менять, это просто он как бы... тупой светофор. А есть те, которые, когда вот, допустим, там надо реально подстраивать светофоры под traffic patterns, да, там для rush hour и так далее, то там эти тайм-ауты можно менять. Они будут либо меняться в control logic, в зависимости от состояния трафика, либо операторы тоже могут ремоутли их менять. Но это все зависит от конфигурации специфического crossroad.
Спасибо большое.
Хорошо, спасибо большое. Я буду еще тут.